No, you are correct. This is not a state line kit converted into a gondola. It is just a gondola all on its own. This is for a future episode of the Log Blog, but in the meantime, we have all sorts of people who have been busy kit bashing away on their state line projects, and it's time for some second updates. So let's get started.
Hi there. So last time when I was talking about this, I was saying I was going to do some chipping, which is making the paint look like it's worn off of the surface. So this is the final result. You can see some of these areas here, like between the windows and around the corner, and then on the front, a little bit more radical there. That was looking a little rough, so I gave it a light overspray of the reefer white that's already on there. For this, I used a Vallejo product called chipping medium. So this stuff is like a real thick fluid. I had to thin it quite a bit to airbrush it. You just airbrush it onto your pre-painted surface. You let it dry for about 30 minutes, paint over top of it, let that dry for about 30 minutes, and then you come back with some water, and I used a toothbrush and some broken bits of coffee stirring sticks to scrape away at the paint. What I've got here is a building that's broken up into 3 big spaces. The front is sort of the office. I imagine this would be up against a street. I plan to block up some of these windows with glass block, so it's going to look like the kind of place that's in an industrial area. You don't want people to be able to get in. It's not the kind of place that you look forward to going to work, but hey, you make some money at it. In the middle is where we actually make all of our money. This is going to be the space where people would be stacking and bundling paper because they took paper in. Maybe they strip parts off of old cars, separate those from the steel and cast iron and aluminum and so forth. In the back here we have an area that would be the heating and restroom, stuff like that, sort of the mechanical parts of the building. So now that I've got everything painted the basic colors, it's time to start putting things together. I'll give it one more wash of weathering, maybe some grays, some blacks, things like that. Then I got to paint the roof, put the company name on there, and it'll be done.
Well, Eric's making great progress, and the paint and weathering on that model is going to be fantastic. Speaking of other people making progress, I thought we'd take this moment to check in with some of the outside contributors who are playing along with our State Line Kit Bash Challenge. We're going to start with Mike Pagano first. Mike has been working on that N-scale version of a Milwaukee Road freight house that he found, and so he sent along his latest update photos. He's been working very hard on scratch building the loading dock out of styrene for that. And he sent along a prototype photo too, so you can see that it's got all of these little roof rafters, details, and things like that. And Mike has done a very good job of capturing that in his model. He also gave us a shot here of the backside to see how all of the pieces are fitting together, and he built his own roof. Instead of using the kit curved roof, he built his own out of styrene as well. In addition to that, we've got another contributor who sent in photos. He's finished at this point. This is Steve Anderson, and Steve built a volunteer fire company house out of his State Line project. So the front end with all of those doors are perfect for fire equipment. And then he also sent along a photo showing some of the interior detail that he put into it, including he's got fire trucks. Steve also simulated some great interior details simply by printing them out on paper and sticking them onto some simple interior walls. So Steve, great job on your Kit Bash Challenge. I like the firehouse a lot. It's a great idea for that Walthers kit. I've got one more contributor who sent in photos of his State Line Kit Bash. Now, Rick Patterson started his project before we began the Kit Bash Challenge, but it qualifies just fine because of some of the stuff he's done for it. Take a look here. So Rick has built Honest Al's used tractors and farm equipment. As a matter of fact, that's Honest Al in the cowboy hat standing out front there. But he's done some of the things that other Kit Bash challengers have done by flipping the walls around to get doors on the side that he needed. The important thing about Rick's project is that he sliced off part of the back half on kind of an angle so he could get it to fit in with his curved backdrop on his model railroad. So good job, Rick, and thanks for sending the photos along. And that brings up an important point. If you already have the State Line model on your railroad somewhere and you've done some kit bashing to it, even if you did it before we did the challenge, send us your photos anyway. We'd love to share them with others so that they can see what you've done.
So the last time I gave you an update, my structure was in primer. Well, now it's been airbrushed with Model Master aged concrete, and I've installed some of the windows and the doors. And I also put in a wood flooring, and that modeling tip credit goes to Ben Lake, who's also modeling a wood floor in part of his cheese factory. And for that, he used some scribed basswood and stained it with the Hunterline weathering mix. And I liked that idea. I thought it was great, so I did the same. Instead of having to scratch build a bar, I found this image of the bar of the brewery that I'm modeling, and with some Photoshop work was able to get it down to the right size, and then I just glued that in. And then to get a 3D effect, I glued a strip of styrene to the bottom, and then I printed out another image, the same image, and cut the bottom half out, and then I glued that to the styrene, so when you look straight in, it looks like the chairs are closer to you and the bar is set back further. Now I also wanted to model these beer barrels here in the storage for them. Using some strip styrene, I built a box and then added 2 more pieces for shelving. And then I glued that to this wall. And then I glued in all these little barrels, and that's my storage. So next up, I'll probably be adding some tables and figures and my brewing equipment, and adding some details to the sidewalk too.
Well, I may have started late, but I'm cruising towards the finish line here. I've got my structure pretty well together with some interior details, but since I put all that interior detail into the model, the important thing was to get some lights in there. And so that's been the focus of my project for the last day or two here. Now, after buying Mini Coopers to stock the Mini Cooper dealership, I didn't really have a lot of money left over for interior lights, but I did have enough for this. This is just a little package from Evan Designs of 3mm super bright LEDs. And the nice thing about these is they can be used for 7 to 19 volts, and they come with all of the resistors and the diodes and everything wired into them. You basically just need a power source. And a power source I've got right here in the bottom. I took a 9-volt battery, nice and inexpensive, and I built a little styrene box for it, and then I used some brass material that we had laying around the shop just to make the contacts, and soldered all the connections. So the idea here then is I've got a toggle switch in here, and when you turn the toggle switch on, ta-da, we've got interior lights, which is great. And so when I decide I don't want the lights on, I can just turn the toggle switch off. If I need to replace the battery, it's just held in by a little piece of foam block here that this came from, actually this came from one of our camera bags. It had fallen out of there, and so I'm like, great, I'll just chop that up and stuff it in there, and that keeps just enough pressure on the battery against the contacts for our interior lighting. So one other little thing you'll notice is the bottom of my Mini Cooper dealership now has all these little brass screws. Okay, these are 256 screws that we use around here for coupler boxes and things like that. What I did is I just countersunk them into the base, and these hold all the Mini Cooper models into the, well, the building. I don't like gluing things down with wheels. They have a tendency of coming loose and rolling all around, and so using our little screws there then, I've made sure that my Mini Coopers are nice and solid on the deck, and they're not coming off. I've got just a few more details to finish putting on this, including gluing this window back in that I inadvertently popped out while I was trying to do something else here today, but that's okay. There's still plenty of time to finish your State Line Kit Bash project. Remember, if you're playing along at home, be sure to post those photos to either our Facebook page or to the MR Video Plus Instagram page, and be sure to hashtag State Line Kit Bash so that we can see what you've been up to. All right, back to it we go.